I'm not even gonna pretend that I'm not recording this right after I film my October wrap-up. Hi, welcome back. Today I'm here with my what I watched in October video. Now I watched a lot in October, so I'm gonna try to make these pretty quick. Let's just get into it. So first, as far as shows, I've been rewatching, or I finished rewatching all of Bob's Burgers. And then I also watched Halloween episodes of Bob's Burgers and a lot of other shows actually. So I watched the Halloween episode of Friends, Family Guy, Rick and Morty, The Mindy Project, Community, The Office, Modern Family. I watched a lot of Halloween episodes. Then I watched Over the Garden Wall. This was a 5-star. This is the cutest thing I've ever seen. Ever. It was so creepy and mesmerizing and beautiful and funny. I think that it was heavily influenced by Studio Ghibli, which I love Studio Ghibli. It was just fantastic. If you like animation in any way, I would highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. I want to watch it again, and I probably will, honestly, in November, just because it was so cozy and autumnal. And I can't recommend it enough. Then I watched The Fall of the House of Usher, which I gave 4.5 stars. This would have been a 5, but I kind of have to compare it because it's all the same people and the same creators. I kind of can't help but have to compare it to Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Bly Manor, because I don't want to say they're seasons because they all hold their own, but technically it's kind of like an anthology in a way. Similar, in my opinion, a bit to like American Horror Story, where you're taking the same actors, the same creators, and you're just doing these different storylines, 2 of which have been based off books now, so that's kind of interesting. I don't think Bly Manor was. Was that Turn of the Screw? Why do I feel like I've heard that somewhere actually? So maybe they're all based on books. So I gave it 4.5 stars because it was definitely my least favorite out of those 3, but it was still so fantastic. This was so creepy, and I think it was such a wonderful take on Poe. I think that it actually was a really interesting way to take Poe's gothic, works and put a spin on it that's relevant to today's society. In this case, they added a lot of themes of capitalism and greed and whatnot. And I just think that that combination worked really well, actually. And I really enjoyed it. I think it was a beautiful ode to The Fall of the House of Usher. So that was all the TV shows that I've watched. I will mention, though, like I did in my last video, that I am watching all of Disney's animated catalog. So I have started in 1923, a couple months ago, and I have been slowly working my way through everything Disney's ever come out with that's animated. I'm not watching all their live action movies from like the 50s and stuff. I've been doing that chronologically, but for the season, for fall, I wanted to switch it up a little bit, so I went through and found all of the ones that are fall or Halloween themed, and so I watched all of those ones because I wanted to watch them while it was in season, which I really had a lot of fun with, actually. Now let's get into movies. So the first one that I watched was The Exorcist, which I gave 4 stars. I had seen clips of The Exorcist before, but I had never actually seen the full thing in its entirety. It was so, I haven't seen the new one yet still, but I'm glad to say that I've seen the original now. It was so vulgar. As far as I know, this was the first demonic possession film that really, hit it big. I know that scared the shit out of a lot of people when it first came out, and I just think that's iconic. Then I watched The Good Dinosaur. I'm making my way through Pixar separately, which I talked about in my last wrap-up as well, but I'm making my way through Pixar separately. So I watched The Good Dinosaur, and I gave it 4 stars. A lot of people say that this is one of Pixar's worst movies. I could not agree less. I honestly really loved this. I appreciated that they did something different. I appreciated that it wasn't a sequel. I appreciated that it was a different take. I loved it, and it was cute. It made me cry. I love this. I feel like we did not watch the same movie because this has really bad ratings, and people were like, oh, it's boring, it didn't feel like Pixar, and I get that. Like, do I think it had that Pixar magic to it that a lot of other movies do? No, but I think that it was still really good. I think it deserves a 4, and I think that it had a lot of redeeming qualities about it that made it a really well-rounded film. And I watched The Lost Boys. This was so iconic. The 80s were literally so unhinged and so homoerotic, and I'm honestly like so jealous of people who got to just like fully experience that level of unhinged, chaotic good. This was such a fun movie though. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's not like scary at all. It's definitely like cheeky camp, and maybe it was supposed to be scary back then, but watching it nowadays, it's definitely not. It's vampires. It's a really fun time. Then continuing on in Pixar, I watched Finding Dory. I think I watched a total of 3 Pixar movies this month. I think I watched The Good Dinosaur, Finding Dory, and then later we can talk about Cars 3 I finally watched. So I had never seen The Good Dinosaur before. I had seen Finding Dory before, and I had never seen Cars 3. So this was a rewatch for me. This one made me bawl my eyes out. I gave it 4.5 stars. Finding Dory is such a good movie. I'm not a huge fan of when Pixar does sequels unnecessarily. Like, for me, I think even Toy Story 4 was pushing it. But this one I felt was nice. I loved seeing this perspective of learning Dory's origin story, learning about her family, having this adventure that still felt at the roots similar enough to Finding Nemo to still be relevant, which I think is a problem Pixar has with a lot of their sequels. They tend to go do something wild like Cars 2, hello? But Finding Dory was fantastic. I really loved it. Then I have Rear Window, which I gave 4 stars. This movie was so good. I swear I've seen parts of it before. Like, I'm almost guaranteed I've seen parts of it before, but again, just like similar to The Exorcist, watching it in its entirety just gave me a whole new appreciation and understanding of it. Alfred Hitchcock is obviously like the icon of suspense and horror and thriller. I definitely expected another twist. Like, I wanted a layer to it that I didn't quite get, which I think is why it wasn't 5 stars. Like, I thought that he was going to be like hallucinating the whole time, or the girl was going to be a hallucination or something, but we didn't get that. It's kind of what you expect. There's not really like a huge twist or anything, which I think would have been really cool, but either way, like, it set the groundwork so much for all future suspense and thriller films and creations and art, so I have to give it its flowers. Then I watched Notting Hill, which I gave 3 stars. This was not what I thought it would be. I love Julia Roberts. I love Hugh Grant. I love rom-coms. I didn't love this. I thought it was boring. There was nothing to it, really. There wasn't a lot of build-up. There wasn't a huge... I didn't feel a huge connection to their connection. You know what I mean? Like, when you watch a romance or whether that be like drama, comedy, whatever it is, you want to feel like you're rooting for the characters and you see their connection. And this happened so fast. It was really insta-levy that I didn't have time to actually care or want to root for them. I was just kind of like, oh, if they get together, that's great. If they don't, that's also fine at this point, because it's so low stakes that I don't really care either way. Then I watched Hubie Halloween, which I actually gave 3 stars. Everyone's saying this is Adam Sandler's worst. I disagree. I thought this was a super fun time. At the end credits, he like catches a dodgeball and he's like, now you're all in big, big trouble. And I started bawling because that's his line, like, is one of his most famous lines from Billy Madison. And like, seeing Adam Sandler get old is slowly, day by day, like, breaking me. Then we made it to Cars 3, which I gave 4 stars. I actually thought this was a fantastic movie. Cars 2 was trash, but I think in Cars 3 they really brought it back to the original kind of idea and kind of like plot line and the heartfeltness of the story, and I just thought that it was really fantastic. I love the concept of, you know, with going back to the roots of Doc and everything. I just thought it was so sweet, and I actually really appreciated this movie. I'm really hoping that they just fully end it here. I'm assuming they will, because this came out in 2017, so it came out a long ass time ago, so I'm hoping that they just end it and don't pull like a Toy Story into a Cars 4, because I think that this ended on a beautiful note. I think it ended on such a great closing for every single one of the characters, and I'm just really hoping that they don't botch it. And then I finished watching all of the Hotel Transylvania. So I watched 2, 3, and then already in November I watched 4. So I did finish that entire franchise along with the accompanying shorts. There's only 3 shorts, but I watched them, so I've seen everything that has ever come out as far as Hotel Transylvania, except for the show, because I'm not trying to do that. 2, I gave 3.5 stars. I gave 3.5 stars. It was a fun time, but it still just wasn't as good as 1, and it just kind of felt a little, I don't want to say random, because I think it was relevant for like Dennis's whole thing, but it just wasn't as funny and cheeky and as good of a time as I thought that it would be. But it wasn't bad by any means. Like, 3.5 is still a good movie. It's just not one that I would revisit. If I ever wanted to watch any of them again, it would definitely be 1 or 4. I didn't watch it until later in the month, but let's just talk about 3 now because it's relevant. I gave this one 3 stars. I thought that it was so random for the plot line, or like the full-on story overall of Hotel Transylvania. There wasn't even really any of the hotel in it and they go on summer vacation, and it felt like it was really similar. I don't know which one came out first. This was 2018. I don't know when the Addams Family one came out, but the Addams Family like summer vacation thing, it felt almost exactly like that. Like, where you're taking these characters that are normally autumnal and spooky and scary, and you're putting them in a more like jolly, not jolly, that sounds like Christmas, but like a happy, like summery vibe. And so it's very contradictory in like a supposed to be like entertaining way, but it just didn't work. I want to see them at the hotel. I want to see antics like that. So it was definitely a disappointment, but I went into it kind of expecting that, because it just seemed random already just from the title. Then I watched The Nun 2, which I give 3 stars. I did like this. The ambiance was good. I didn't like it as much as the first one though. I think that it had a better plot line. It had a better, like the writing was better. It had a little bit more explanation. Like I really did enjoy it. The twist was fantastic. But I don't know, the special effects just felt a little cheesy and it felt cheaper than the budget was, which was disappointing. Then I watched Coherence. I absolutely love this. Maybe my favorite movie of the month. This genre of kind of these parallel universe, sci-fi, mindfuck type of movies. My all-time favorite movie is probably Interstellar. This one is not as sci-fi, obviously. They're not going into space or anything. But it has very similar themes, and I absolutely ate this shit up. This is so good. It's super low budget. It looks like it's filmed with like an iPhone 2. First 10 minutes of watching it, you're gonna be like, what the fuck? Like, this just looks like just a home video. They're just at dinner, like it just doesn't make sense. And then that shit picks up and you start getting, you know, your mind starts whirling and all these connections and you're trying to figure shit out. I love this. It's definitely my favorite genre of movie. So if you have recommendations similar, if you've seen both this and Interstellar and you kind of know what I'm talking about in terms of the genre, if you have any recommendations, definitely let me know. Then the last 2 like full feature films I watched were Scream 4 and Scream / Scream 5. Now Scream 4 I give 3 stars. This one was okay for me. I don't necessarily think that it was necessary, and it wasn't like the best out of the original 4 by any means, but I think it was still fun. It was still cheeky, camp, everything I love about the Scream franchise. It still had those elements. I just felt a little about it overall and its necessity in the franchise. Then Scream 5 I actually loved. I gave this 4 stars. This requel, if you know, you know. I really actually enjoyed it. I think that the self-awareness of the writers of these movies is iconic. It was so meta, like it could not have been more meta. And I was saying that when we were watching the movie, and then the movie even says like, oh, it's so meta, and they were talking about the movies, and it's just like, it's so self-aware that it's hilarious, and you really have to give it praise for being probably the most camp franchise that there is. There were a couple things I would have changed, elements that I didn't think were necessary or we could have done without, but overall it was really, really good. And that's everything I watched. Like I told you, I watched a lot this month. I've been really on a movie kick. If you want to see like any more videos about film or movies, definitely let me know, because I love content like that. I just get a little hesitant posting it because I don't know how well received it would be. But if you want like recommendation videos or reactions or anything like that, definitely let me know and I would do them 100%. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!